Certifying Badasses one podcast at a time. Kelly Orchard's podcast for successful badassery. B.A.D.A.S.S is an acronym, and each Wednesday Kelly shares tips, tools, and information about how you can become licensed to be badass too. A badass is aware of their emotions, acknowledges their fears and owns them, and knows when they need a positive attitude adjustment. Turn up your energy with Wednesday Wisdom. Here's Kelly Orchard.
All right. Yep, that's right. Thanks, Bobby. So, hey guys, here's what we're covering on today's episode of Wednesday Wisdom. I'm Kelly Orchard. That's right. The Badass Certifier. I'm also a licensed psychotherapist, by the way. Hey, the tools in the second A for Badass are going to teach you about positive self-talk to boost your confidence, reframe negative perspective on yourself, replace your fears with positive messages, and self-esteem building exercises, and the awareness of the importance of setting healthy boundaries. That's what we're doing today. Yep, that's right. We're getting a little nerdy today on Wednesday Wisdom for the podcast for successful badassery.
Please don't call yourself a nerd. Here, we prefer the honorary title, Intellectual Badass.
Well, yeah, I like the term intellectual badass myself, because that's what we are. So let's talk a little bit about emotional intelligence. That's part of the tools that I provide for you in the Badass License to be Badass program. So what you've been learning in the Badass program is leading you to some emotional intelligence. So the definitions that embody it are self-awareness, which is what this entire month of April is all about. Personal confidence, a presence, intrapersonal emotional connection, mindfulness, focus, and social awareness. That means empathy, service, compassion, adding value, resonance, and rapport, attention, focus, and listening. And then, of course, self-management. That's self-control, discipline, and willpower, making plans, having a vision, and taking initiative, reducing stress and impulse management. And then relationship management. That's conflict management, cooperation, collaboration, and teamwork, problem solving, leadership, and influence. See, these are some of the components of emotional intelligence. And before you can really make significant changes in your personal and professional growth, there's a few things that you need to stop doing. Whether it's in the workplace, at home, or in your relationships, here are some ways that you can flip the format with emotional intelligence. And just as a sidebar, this list is a modified list from Travis Bradberry, co-author of Emotional Intelligence. Stop making a lot of stupid rules. Yes, you've got to have some rules, but they don't have to be lazy attempts to create order out of chaos. When your team feels like Big Brother is watching, they're going to choose to leave. Stop letting accomplishments go unrecognized. I see this all too often. You've got to be aware of yours and the accomplishments of others and recognize them. Celebrate. Stop treating everyone equally. Be aware of those badasses in your work, business, and relationships and know who they are. If you've got one or two in your life and business, let them know. Stop going back on your commitments. It brings out the worst in you. It causes you to feel a sense of failure and promotes negativity. If you say yes, mean it. That also builds credibility. And then stop being apathetic. Did you know that more than half of people leave their jobs because they think their boss doesn't care about them? The same goes with relationships of any kind. It's impossible to share any amount of time when they aren't personally involved and don't care. Stop being that person. Be aware of others around you. Here's some emotional intelligence tips. Relationships are based on communication. Likability, credibility, and empathy are created through listening. Stress is lowered and outcomes improved through positive tone and nonverbals. Multitasking limits communication. Seriously, have you ever been in a meeting with somebody or in a conference room and so many people are either on their laptops or on their phones multitasking? Yeah, they're not paying any attention to what's really happening in the room. They're not aware. Caring is an essential part of the relationships. Resonance and rapport convey care, share optimism, and positive feelings. Now, a little bit about the science of the heart. This is a brief introduction to what the HeartMath Institute has revealed. Now, I am certified in the HeartMath method, and so I can claim that, and I really do love this method. It really resonated with me. I share this a lot with people. Of course, anything heart-related is going to matter to me, and I've just kind of adapted some of the practices by including music in the program. But scientific research on the math from the HeartMath Institute is basically they are an organization that studies the heart-brain connection and its relationship to stress and mood in humans. And this is how the organization describes their findings as found on their website. HeartMath research tests theories about the electromagnetic field of the human heart using machines that measure faint magnetic fields, like MRI machines or an EEG. The heart's electrical field is 60 times greater than that of the brain. Its magnetic field is 5,000 times greater than that of the brain. The heart generates the strongest electromagnetic field in the body, and its pumping action transmits powerful rhythmic information patterns containing neurological, hormonal, and electromagnetic data to the brain and throughout the rest of the body. The heart sends more information to the brain than the brain sends to the heart. The heart has a mind of its own. The field is large enough to extend several feet to others. So imagine how this impacts your work and home environment. How positive moods, gratitude, joy, and happiness create a larger, more expanded heart field, making you more productive. A negative mood, like greed, anger, and sadness, constrict the heart field, making you more destructive. HeartMath shows the benefit when we coordinate our breath with our heartbeat in various repetitive patterns. This is one of the methods that helped me discover the benefits of having your own badass soundtrack. Meditation, breathing, physiological benefits, and practicing the foundations. Whatever it is in your heart, it's going to be there. It's who you are. So if you think nothing but pain and misery, you'll constantly be unhappy and unsatisfied with your life, no matter how high you go in your career or how many relationships you've had. If fear rules your soul or your heart, you'll be in constant dread. There is a mind-body connection, and it's vital to be healed in your inmost being. Your body hears what the mind is thinking. This holds true also in physics of transmission, how radio transmitters emit their signal to receivers with their format versus HeartMath, how humans emit their signal to those around them, like how plants emit their signal, oxygen, through their photosynthesis. The laws of physics, biology, and how we think affects the way we feel, which affects the way we behave. It's scientific. It's hard, I know. It takes practice. Just like a badass athlete practices the fundamentals, no matter the sport. They run drills, they do basic exercises to play their best. Dancers always practice fundamentals of form and isolation and strength exercises. Business leaders attend leadership conferences, read books, and practice their basic leadership skills. Musicians, scientists, mathematicians, doctors, sales professionals practice formulas, foundations, basic skills. Then, doesn't it make perfect sense for individuals, you, to practice the foundations to flip the format of negative thinking out of fear to positive thinking out of love? Following your heart is a step-by-step process. So I began graduate school at a time when my heart problems were still unresolved. It was a step forward toward following my heart. The process was long, and I had to remind myself every single day with every class I attended, every assignment I had to complete, and every task I undertook, that I was on a journey that would eventually result in a master's degree. Then I would still have to work to do more to become a licensed therapist and a coach. In the book Positive Thinking, How to Be Positive by Eliminating Negativity by David A. Hunter, he writes, "You can't just wait until the last minute before you start to think in a positive way in hope of helping yourself out of a negative situation. It would be like waiting until after you are severely dehydrated before you finally start to drink water." Listen to your heart specifically. How does it beat? I remember my cardiologist asking me what I did when my heart jumped into long periods of arrhythmia. I shared a little of this story in my courses and even on the podcast, but here's the facts that I didn't reveal. My case was a garden variety arrhythmia, but unusually chronic and persistent. I would have episodes that would last 15 minutes a day, any given time, multiple times a day for months on end. I would essentially be in atrial fibrillation for at least 3 to 7 hours per day, every day. It wore me out physically and made me incapable of leading a normal life. It was pretty impossible to go anywhere or do anything without feeling anxiety that my heart would just act out at any time. Ask any parent with an especially unpredictable toddler how they go out in public, and they'd probably tell you they'd prefer to stay home. It's pretty much how I felt. Once my heart failed and I began the steps toward paying attention and transforming, I learned how to listen to my heart, and not only my physical heart, but things that were important to me. You must form new subconscious beliefs if you want positive changes. Replace that old negative record that keeps playing in the background.
A badass is mindful of their surroundings, has a positive mindset and a plan. A badass is happy, healthy, and strives to have a balanced life. A badass is aware of their emotions, acknowledges their fears and owns them, and knows when they need a positive attitude adjustment.
Now let me give you a little bit of tools for success for this next segment on Wednesday Wisdom. That's right, Kelly Orchard, the Badass Certifier. Hey, you're going to learn about awareness by getting to the root of your struggles. You'll learn about how to acknowledge your own needs and how to set healthy boundaries. I teach you how to reframe some of the failures and struggles by examining life as its moments are like leaves on a tree. And an added bonus, I've got some lessons in surrender and what Dorothy from The Wizard of Oz taught me when I became aware of my own negative mindset and acknowledged it and began to make a change towards growth. If you're ready to really get started on this journey, I highly recommend that you join the Badass Ambassador crew and participate in my License to Be Badass program. These are the things that you'll learn. Positive self-talk to boost your confidence. Reframe negative perspective of yourself. Replace fears with positive messages and self-esteem building exercises. Badass, we've come a long way. We've decided that a badass is happy, healthy, and strives to have a balanced life. A badass is mindful of their surroundings, has a positive mindset and a plan. A badass is determined to grow, disciplined in the process, and dedicated to their goals. And a badass is aware of their emotions, acknowledges their fears and owns them, and knows when they need a positive attitude adjustment. Now, you have learned that if you've been following along since January on the podcast for Successful Badassery, because you realize I just went through the B, the A, the D, and the second A. Here's what I know for certain. If you aren't growing, you're dying. And I'm so glad you're here and that you're deciding to continue to be a certified badass and stay on this journey with me. You know, those who don't plan often fail. You know, of course, there are always going to be unexpected detours and distractions, but a badass life requires one to be agile and flexible. So while also staying the course, and that's what the S in the Badass program talks about. And we'll get to that, I think, in the month of May. We're going to start talking about steadfastly stay the course to achieve successful badassery. That's actually the 2 S's in the BADASS acronym. Steadfastly stay the course, and you'll achieve successful badassery.
B.A.D.A.S.S is an acronym, and each Wednesday, Kelly shares tips, tools, and information about how you can become licensed to be badass too. Turn up your energy with Wednesday Wisdom. Here again is Kelly Orchard.
All right, now, so for skills and drills for this Wednesday wisdom, thank you very much, Mr. Ocean. He's an ocean of talent, that man. Kelly Orchard here. All right, so let's talk a little bit about boundaries. What are boundaries? Most therapeutic practices would encourage boundaries. A boundary is an imaginary line that separates me from you. They separate your physical space, your feelings, your needs, and responsibilities from others. Your boundaries also tell other people how they can treat you, what's acceptable and what isn't. You can think of a boundary as a property line. Setting boundaries is an important part of establishing one's identity and is crucial to the aspect of mental health and well-being. Your boundaries can be physical or emotional, and they can range from being loose to rigid, with healthy boundaries often falling somewhere in between. Healthy boundaries are important for self-care. Learning to show compassion and kindness to yourself is crucial in setting healthy boundaries. There's plenty of books and literature about the importance of setting and maintaining healthy boundaries, and you can find some of those exercises in the awareness module of my License to Be Badass program too. So as far as music is concerned, because I always like to include music in the process, what song might be helpful for you to remember and set healthy boundaries? Maybe it's a song that represents confidence and self-reliance. Perhaps it's a song that allows you to recall a time when you were free and happy to be alive. Boundaries, like your badass soundtrack, will look differently than others. So be aware of what's important to you, what matters, and set a boundary. All right, so today in Wednesday Wisdom Podcast for Successful Badassery, remember,
A badass is aware of their emotions, acknowledges their fears and owns them, and knows when they need a positive attitude adjustment.
That's right, Bobby. And we're going over the second A in BADASS in the acronym, which stands for awareness. So all this month, it's positive self-talk to boost your confidence, reframing the negative perspective of yourself, replacing your fears with positive messages, and some self-esteem. So hey, you know what? We're talking about the awareness of setting healthy boundaries. What tools do you need to add in your toolbox? Are you ready to sign up to get towards the next step of being licensed to be badass? The first step could be my Badass Habits ebook, and hey, I'll even send you a sticker.
Grab your Badass Habits ebook. Get started on your badass journey. Go to licensedtobebadass.com.